Hello, my name is Steve Karkula. I'm the Director of Product Marketing for Hillstone Networks, and I'm going to give you a brief demonstration of our intelligent next-generation firewall. Hillstone's intelligent next-generation firewall provides 7 different views. We are currently seeing the dashboard view, but by clicking these tabs at the top, we can go to the iCenter, the monitor view, policy view, object, network, and system views. We can also select how much data we want to view. So by selecting this tab, I can look at real-time data, or I can look at data for the last hour, last day, last week, last month, or any customized variation thereof. We'll leave it at last week. Now, each one of these boxes is actually a widget within the dashboard. So if I wanted to move the data around to fit my needs, all I have to do is grab it and slide it around the dashboard. We'll leave it where it is at the moment. Let's look at some of the data that's in this dashboard. The first thing I want to point out is the Network Risk Index. This tells you if you've got any threats that are inside your network that you probably need to look at. Right now, it's saying it's pretty low. We have a score of 20 out of a possible 100, so that's good news. But let's go over and get more detail. So we can go over to the Threatscape, and we can look to see if there are any hosts that are potentially at risk. And by looking down here, I can see I don't have any that are at critical risk, but I do have 2 that are at high risk, so I probably want to look at those. I have none at medium risk, and I have 11 that are at low risk. Now, over the last week, I've had 14 critical attacks, 2 high attacks, 113 medium, and 110 low. I should tell you that these are unique attacks. I may, in fact, have had more than 14 critical attacks. I could have had 44, for example, but some of them would be repeated. So these are unique threats. Also on the dashboard are system alerts. So I don't currently have any system alerts, so if I wanted to, I could hide this box just by clicking here. And at the bottom, coming up here, are the top 10 applications by user. So here's my applications here on the bottom, and by holding my mouse over any of these applications, I can see how many users have been using this particular app over the last week. In a similar vein, I can go over here and I can see the top users by application. So I can see this is the top user of applications. His name is Yan. So maybe I want to look at Yan later on. He has used 71 different applications in the last week. Now sometimes graphical views are fine, but you may prefer to see a tabular view. We can easily change it to tabs by clicking that button there. Also, if you want to customize it further, maybe you want the top users by, let's say traffic. You want to see how much bandwidth it's consuming. You can easily do that as well on these pull-down menus. Moving down the screen, I can see the total bandwidth or traffic that's been generated over the last week just by scrolling over this. I can see the total number of concurrent sessions that have been generated over the last week. And as I scroll down a little further, I can see the new sessions per second that have been generated. Over on my left-hand side, I can look at my interface table. Move that back. And I can see if it's green, that it's an available port, that port is active. If it's gray, that link currently is down. Maybe it hasn't been configured. And if it's red, it means it's been halted by the admin. And over here, I have a bunch of system information available to me. Okay, let's go to the top of the screen and look at these 2 hosts that have a high risky index, a high potential threat. Now there's 2 ways for me to get there. I can either go to the iCenter and look at it, or I can just merely click here. We'll click here. All right, I just want to show you one thing before we begin. I'm going to look at all attacks, all risky hosts, and I can show you that the attacks have come from, well, 2,266 attacks have come from the United States, 5 have come from Germany, and 359 have come from China. So these are all attacks, but that's useful information. One of the things that I might use this for is, let's assume I had an attack coming from, I don't know, North Korea. Now, if I'm not doing any business with North Korea, perhaps I want to build a policy to block all traffic coming from North Korea and perhaps mitigate the amount of attacks I'm seeing. Okay, let's go back and look at just the 2 risky hosts, and they were both high, and I'm just going to kind of do this because it clears up the screen a little. And here's my 2. I can see that my critical attacks here are, I have 42 of them. I have 0 that are high, I have 6 that are medium, and 3 that are low. So let's go ahead and get more detail. So I'll click on that host, and here they are. And as I said before, 42 critical, 0 high, 6 medium, and 3 low. So I probably want to know, have these been identified by an IPS or antivirus? If so, they've probably been blocked and I'm okay. But if they haven't been identified by those 2, maybe they've been identified by Hillstone's Advanced Threat Analysis Engine. And in that case, the host is probably infected because we are a post-breach detection engine. And sure enough, I'm looking at these, and almost all of them have been identified by our Advanced Threat Detection Engine. If I scroll down, yep, they all have been. All right, so that means I really want to look at this. So we'll pick one. Let's pick the Trojan backdoor. That's a critical severity. So let's click on that particular attack. And here I have a complete description of the known malware that most closely represents the attack we saw. So it's an unknown attack, but it's a variant of this Trojan backdoor. Now, what we really want to know is how confident are we? So we'll click on Threatscape and just quickly go down here and we'll look at the malware reliability. This is our confidence level. And we have a 90.48% confidence level that this unknown attack resembles or is a variant of a known attack, the one we just talked about, the Trojan backdoor. Now, if we want more evidence, we can click on the PCAP file and get more information. So we'll click on that. Here it is. And here at the bottom, we have a whole bunch of information that's available to you. So you can do your own analysis, your own forensic analysis, and figure out whether or not this is the Trojan backdoor that we think we've identified. In all likelihood, you'll agree with us. Now, the other thing we want to do is, with this kind of a confidence level, maybe we want to put a stop to this right now. So we can go over to mitigation. And the first thing we want to do is see if there's been any auto mitigation already employed. And it doesn't look like there is. So perhaps we want to change this ourselves. Perhaps we want to put in some mitigation. And I have multiple ways of doing that. I can either limit the bandwidth, I can limit the sessions, or I can block it. Let's assume for the moment what I want to do right now is just slow it down. So I want to limit the bandwidth. So I can create a new mitigation policy by going here, clicking New, and then I can change the thresholds. I can change how much I want to slow it down, by what percent, and for how long, so that I have enough time to do an analysis of this and go in and make a policy change. So I can change these parameters and block or mitigate that attack right now. Now, the next question I may have is, have I seen this attack before? Has this attack been happening on my network in the past? Because if it has, I want to do whatever I can to mitigate it. So I'll go to Threat History, click on that, and just see if we've seen it before. And in fact, we have seen it before, and we can see the attacker. And this is interesting. It's the same attacker. Tells me right away that I probably want to put this particular IP on a blacklist. I can see the victim, and I can see the zone that it's coming from, and I can see when we detected the attack. So a lot of information is available to you. let's look at another tab. Let's look at the threat tab. So we'll change from risky host to threats. And I'm going to leave it in high for the moment. I can show all threats. I'll just show you that for the second. And all the threats that are available are here. One of the interesting things about this is I can not only see what detected it, so here I have antivirus, intrusion prevention, etc. But if I want to, and I don't have it showing, so let me just show you this, I can see the policy that allowed that attack to come through. So let me click this, and now I have the policy showing. Now this is kind of dummy data here, but if I'm really interested in an attack, let's assume I've got an attack that's a pretty high level attack, a critical attack, and I can see that here's the country it's coming from. It looks like it's coming here from China. If I'm not doing business with China, maybe I want to go look at this policy, and I can do that by clicking on this and make a change to that policy. So that's that easy. Now let's go back to just these two high-level attacks, because I want to show you that one of the ways we've detected this particular attack, the HTTP request flood, is again through Hillstone's abnormal detection engine over here to the right. So that's network behavior that looks suspicious. So let's show you what that looks like. I'll click on that. And again, we have an attack description. This is our best guess at what this thing is doing. We can click on Threatscape, and we can actually see what it's doing, because here I have a graph of the abnormal behavior. Now, in reality, you would usually see the baseline value in gold, the lower threshold in green, and the upper threshold in purple. But because those thresholds are so low for this particular period of time, the baseline threshold is a 0.52 on the scale. So it's a very, very small threshold. And essentially, there would be no traffic. But in fact, we do have actual traffic. So that tells us we've got some abnormal behavior. And this is active inbound sessions. We have also new inbound sessions over here. So we've got a pretty good idea that this is way out of the ordinary, and we would probably want to do some mitigation. So again, to mitigate that, I can either go in and change a policy, or perhaps I want to block it. Perhaps I want to slow it down, whatever. I can see that I don't have any auto mitigation policies in effect at the moment. Maybe I'll create one. So let's say I want to block this one. So I click block, I go into new, I say I want to block it, and I give myself how many seconds I want to block it for, and then I click OK. We're not going to do that at the moment. But it gives you an idea how quickly you can mitigate and block this activity, so you have time to do more research on it or go make a policy change. All right. Earlier I said we have a user that's using a lot of applications, and that user's name was Yan. So let's go look to see what Yan has been up to over the last week. So I click on Monitor, and the first thing I want to do is just look at maybe users. So let's look at users. I'll go to Summary. And I can see that over the last week, yep, Yan is one of the biggest users of applications. Okay. I can get a little bit more user detail by going here, and Yan is actually showing up at the top. And I can go here, and I can look at all the applications that Yan is using. So I can see he's using TeamViewer, an Apple software update, and he's using Skype, and he's using a bunch of other things here. So, and I can also see the total traffic, so how much bandwidth he's using, how many sessions, how many new sessions. So I get quite a lot of detail here about Yan. Now, let's assume there's an application that I have no idea what it really is. Is it risky? Just exactly what is that application? So I can go to Application Details, and I don't know, I can select one. Let's just say I've never heard of Skype. I'll select Skype. Well, you can see here at the bottom, there's a description of what Skype is, And then it tells you what ports it uses. It's pretty dynamic, I can see, so it does a lot of port hopping. And I can see that it has some risk associated with it because it is evasive. It does consume excessive bandwidth. It has been known to be prone to misuse. It's capable of transferring files. It doesn't tunnel other applications, but it is used by malware. It has known vulnerabilities, and it is widely used. So there's a lot of different things that tell me that this particular app is risky. Now, we all know Skype, but perhaps there was another app that maybe it was BitTorrent, for example, that, it uses a lot of bandwidth. Maybe you want to limit that. So you could build a policy now that would limit Skype or BitTorrent for a particular user or for a particular group. Or you could build a policy that said anything that has a risk level of 3 or 4 or 5 above, you're not allowed to use it. So there's a multitude of things you can do to mitigate risk. And let me see if there's anything else I want to show you. I think that is pretty much what I wanted to show you right now. You can go to Objects. You can look at your applications. So let me go to App Look. And you can see all of the applications by name, by category, by subcategory, by risk, and technology being used. So this is another way of ensuring whether or not these applications can be allowed. And if you want to allow them, you can click on them. If you want to disallow them, you can turn them off. Okay, that is pretty much what I wanted to show you tonight. I hope you found this useful, and thank you very much for watching.